Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. My name is James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And this is Haley Jones, and this is his story that is now a part of my story.
Wow, it's not almost a part of your story. It's now is your story.
It actually is intertwining now, for sure.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. So where did we leave off?
We left off, we had went to Atlanta. On our way back, I came clean with you about my financial situation. I told you, I have all this debt. I don't know how I'm going to figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And you were like, well, I don't have any debt. And I remember I was like, well, good for you. I'm happy for you.
I remember thinking, like, wouldn't it suck if we both had that kind of debt?
But it was just the way you said that. It was nice, but at the same time, it was like, what does this mean? What are we going to do here? But we came back, had a lot to face with my mom, things going on. But it was a neat beginning of 2013. So here we go.
I was actually thinking after we recorded last time that it's really neat that we have this recorded just for the mere purpose of our kids getting to hear our love story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because truly, if I don't remember I don't remember so much right now. Imagine what I'm not going to remember when I'm 60 and they're adults trying to get us to tell them how we met and all that. So I think that's kind of neat.
Well, we can just say, listen to the Straight Outta Prison podcast and figure it out. It's good stuff.
Okay, so we're coming back and you're already, I remember you were thinking about giving me your ex-fiance's ring. My sister put a nix on that, thank God.
I never told you that.
I know, but now I know that.
Yeah.
So where do we end up? We come back from Atlanta. Is it January? Yes, it is January.
It's like January 2nd.
Yeah.
2013. I drop you off. I get home. And I remember going home that night and thinking, there's no way this can work out. There's just too much stacked against me. There is no way this is going to keep continuing the way that it seems like it's continuing.
Like it was too good to be true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I had even met you a year before, it would have been a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But like at this time in my life, it was just such a weird season of, I was trying to recover from chaos. And then I met my wife. It's crazy.
It is kind of weird because at the time, I just don't think I was able to take in or fully grasp or understand just the weight of, first of all, the stuff with the Gardendale store, and second of all, the stuff with your mom that was going down.
Yeah, well, by this time I'd told you about that.
Right.
And I made plans I was going to get her after Christmas, but then, she's like a huge Alabama fan. And Alabama was playing Notre Dame that year for the national championship.
Like they do every year, pretty much.
Not every year, just most years.
Yeah. Most years here recently.
At least during the Saban era.
Yeah.
But I told my cousin, let me get through the national championship, which was like a week and a half into the new year. I knew she would want that. And I had spent a lot of time trying to find somewhere to put her. And I thought that she would not want to be at the Foundry because I'd worked with the Foundry for so many years. I thought it would embarrass her. But in the end, I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't find like a program that was like the Foundry. Mm-hmm. That was faith-based, did counseling, all the things. And I think it was my cousin Lisa that helped me. She said, I think that would give your mom more of a comfort knowing that they know you. It wouldn't be like what you're thinking. I think it would be a plus for her. So we made the plans. I went, I have a lot of friends that work at the Foundry.
Uh-huh.
Well, I made an appointment with a friend of mine that was the director of operations for the Foundry. I asked a lot of questions, figured it out, and we decided that was what we needed to do. Mm-hmm. So that was what we did.
So that's what you did. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. It was a little more complicated than that because then I had to convince my mom. So what ended up happening was
well, hold on. Last time you said that you just basically told her, this is what you're doing.
No, I didn't say that. I said I would tell her that.
Okay.
What I said was I told my cousin Lisa, let's just leave it for a minute. Let me handle it because you don't tell mama things on the front. You tell her when it's happening. Mm-hmm. So I set up a meeting with my cousin Lisa. She met me in Montgomery. She dropped my mom off. We swapped cars. My mom got in my car. I was like, so am I coming to live with you? And I said, I was trying to give her the weekend because she was meeting you that weekend for the first time. My plan was to give her the weekend and tell her on Monday, this is what we're doing. But I don't know if it's intuition or, she's my mom. She knows me, but she knew something was up.
Yeah.
So I just said, you're going to the foundry. And she was like, what's that? And I says, rehab. That's what we got to do. And she started pitching a fit, saying that's what she wasn't doing. And so I said, I feel like you almost died this time. So this is what we're doing, and this is what's going to happen.
What made you think she almost died?
Just an intuition.
Oh, you just, okay.
Yeah, and she admitted to me later on that she almost took all her pills one time just to be done with it because she was depressed and all things.
Yeah.
But that wasn't easy for me to do that with her. And then telling her that on a Friday night and her meeting you for the first time on a Saturday night, like she was meeting you the next day for the first time, made it a little more complicated.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did what we had to do. And it was hard, but I just knew it was what had to happen, and I wasn't willing to do anything else at that point. So
yeah, so I was meeting her for the first time, and I mean, I know we touched on this last time, but I just had zero experience or exposure.
Yeah, you didn't know.
And I had no, I mean, you had told me, but I'm like, oh, okay, great. You're gonna kind of, like, there was just such like I don't know if that bothered you or not, or you just felt like.
No, actually, I appreciated it. It helped me.
Yeah, I was just so naive. I was just like, okay, great. We're going to meet her. Then she's going to go to rehab. It's going to be so good.
I remember your mom told me, because I feel like I didn't explain it to your mom. Mm-hmm. She said, that's the most loving thing you could do for your mom is give her some help. So I was like, well, yeah, I'm not sure she would say that, but we'll just see how this plays out.
And quite frankly, too, it amazes me talking about it now. Because I think my mom was just older. I mean, she didn't have a lot of experience with that either, but just being an older, me being her daughter,
yeah,
that didn't like give her red flags or cause her to hesitate.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, knowing my mom,
that is weird.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, talking about the miracle of it all, like how it went down.
But your mom worked with women trying to help people.
That's true. She did.
I mean, she spent while you were in Sweden, she was working at the Christ Health Center or whatever, trying to help people, help women get their lives straightened out. So I don't think that was as foreign to her as maybe it was to you because she had some experience in that, or at least she had a little bit of that under her belt. But it was a heaviness. It was difficult.
Okay, so what do you remember from the night that I met your mom for the first time?
I just remember she was very accepting of you. It was like she just knew. Like I told her, I'm probably gonna marry this girl, and this is different. And it's not like anything I've ever been involved in. So don't embarrass me.
Did you say that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And she had she was a little butthurt because I told her I was taking her to rehab.
A little butthurt?
Yeah, like she had a attitude with me.
Oh, is that what you call that? Butthurt?
Yeah, like she was mad at me.
I've never heard that.
I'm like, don't get mad at me. It's not about me. It's about you.
Yeah.
But really, in the end, the only thing she cared about was her dog. And I told her I'd take care of the dog. We'd do Mr. P.
Mr. P. And she called him Pee-Pee, didn't she?
Yeah. He was a Dachshund, and she said that he was the person that was with her through all her worst times. So I was like, Mom, it's a dog. It's not a person. I mean, I get it. I had a dog that I loved too, so I get it. But I promised her I'd take care of the dog, and she made us spaghetti with meat sauce, which is my favorite meal. Maybe my only meal that my mom makes.
Yeah.
And we had a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And I could tell she was sad, but at the same time, she was excited for me a little bit.
Right.
I mean,
so many mixed emotions.
Well, it was hard for her not to think about her own situation, and I get that.
Right.
And I remember that Monday morning when we woke up, because I had thought, like, maybe I'll let her stay with me a couple weeks, just, to get used to the idea of going to rehab. But my friend Leslie, who worked for the foundry, was like, no, if you do that, she's going to try to live there, and you'll never, you need to just let it be for the weekend and then bring her on Monday. And so we worked all that out, and, Monday morning came, it was time for me to take her. And I remember just hearing her crying in the bathroom. It just broke my heart, just because that was a small house. She could hear everything. And she was scared, and I knew it. But it was what had to happen.
Yeah.
And, by this point, I can't live my life with Mama no more. I got to live my own life. So I took her to the foundry. There was Mike Farrell, who had been a part of our church when she was going to Grace and Truth. His wife, Becky, came and met me, and she was like going to walk her through the process. And it was kind of cool because her daughter, Tawana, was the women's director for the Foundry.
Becky's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just made it, I guess, better.
Right.
Or they tried to anyway.
Which is kind of comforting, I guess.
It was. I mean, I had met with, I knew all these people. These were people that I'd worked with. They were like, this could be good for her. This could end up being, a lot of these ladies come here and they get the help they need, but this becomes like a family for them and like a network of support. And, look at it like that. So I was trying to look at it like that, but I knew my mom, she wasn't really interested in all this stuff. But,
yeah. So do you remember like driving away after you dropped her off?
Yeah, it was hard. It was very hard. And it was kind of weird because by that time I had been connected to the Foundry for like 5 or 6 years. I worked with Pastor Bill. He came and asked me to help him with the food service. And, I'd never been on staff with the Foundry, but I did consulting with them through Kairos. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I wanted to get involved in what was going on with her recovery, I could. But they told me if I wanted to really get help, that I needed to not do that. And I mean, I had a lot of friends that worked at the Foundry. One of my best friends, Tim Busby, he worked at the Foundry and would see her every day. Mm-hmm. And they were real big on like the first 3 or 4 days that you have no contact.
Yeah.
So I didn't see her from the Monday that I dropped her off. I went on Thursday night to a chapel service. And when she saw me, she was mad about it. I mean, she was pissed. She wouldn't speak to me. But they had already told me to expect that. It takes 2 or 3 weeks for them to process.
Was it just because, like, she realized where she was at and she, I don't know, like, because if she wasn't...
She was saying I did that to her. And I kept saying, I did nothing to you. This is just what happens. You chose, your path.
Kind of like we tell our kids, it's a funny connection, but say like, well, when you chose to hit her again, you chose to get a spanking.
Yeah, pretty similar. But I just had a hard time not taking that on myself, and it was tough. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done was to take my mom there and drop her off.
I think I remember you talking about that when it happened.
It was heavy, but it was necessary.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so your mom's at the Foundry, and
and Alabama won the national championship.
Naturally,
Notre Dame.
And
I don't think they scored. I think it was a full shutout that year.
You're planning to exchange your first engagement ring that you bought.
Well, that was actually Abby's idea. She said, you can trade the ring in, and I was like, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. And so we set up a undercover operation. Which, well, we had to be careful because Gardendale's a small town, and you're still even though your dad was gone, you were still working for his office. So.
Yeah, and the office is on the same street, literally like right across the street
directly across the street
Jeff Dennis Jewelers, where you bought your original ring, which you planned to trade it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she picked me up I think it was like a Saturday morning. She picked me and Brandon up in somebody else's car, so you wouldn't see the car, and we snuck in through the back door of Jeff Dennis Jewelers. And we went in, and she was like, James, let me do the talking. So she was like, look, Jeff, this is a gently used ring. He bought it from you, and we're going to trade it in. And she knew the things that you liked, and I didn't. And she was very detailed, very specific about what you liked, what you didn't like. And we went through every ring that he had in Jeff Dennis Jewelers. And you could find the diamond, but you couldn't find the band. And you could find the band, but you couldn't find the setting. So it was like making my head hurt. So finally he said, I can make a ring. So what ended up happening was he made your ring, custom made your ring. And then I think I had to give him a couple $1,000s on top of what I trade in value. Mm-hmm. But she talked him into giving me like full trade in on that ring, which it was a ring that only worn for 3 weeks.
Which means like you got the full price that you paid for?
Yeah.
That's amazing though.
Plus, I think I had to give him $1,000 to get the engagement ring. But it was cool. And it was special because your extra I didn't know how.
I'm not that extra.
Well, according to Abby, about
I'm like, honey, you need to see some of these other women
the
out
ring
there.
that you wanted to wear the rest of your life was not just a regular ring that you could go buy. It had to be created.
Well, it's very simple, actually. It's
Oh,
like
it
a
is.
solitaire diamond on a band.
But there was a certain band that she thought you wanted in a certain setting that, anyways.
Yeah.
So we got it done.
Yeah. we
And
got it done.
He said it would take him 2 or 3 weeks to get it made. I think he showed me the diamond. I picked out the diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, really, Abby picked out the diamond. But I signed off on it.
Yeah.
And so the ring thing was settled.
So that was in January.
Yeah. So here we go.
You keep saying that. Okay. So what else was going on during this time? Because it feels like there was a lot more. I mean, not that wasn't enough. Your mom going to rehab and you trading in a diamond ring.
That was tough. The other thing was my lease was coming up on my house.
Oh, yeah.
And I had signed what do we call it? Like a
Oh, I know. I remember this.
lease to own?
Yeah. Rent to own or whatever.
It was stupid. But
Lease purchase, maybe.
Lease purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was only a year. My year was up. So I was going to have to move or buy the house. And I couldn't buy the house because my credit was wrecked. Like I couldn't do anything. And I mentioned it to you, and you said, well, if things are progressing the way I think they are, maybe I should just buy the house. And I was like, well, maybe, but what happens if you buy the house and then this don't work out? I mean, and I'll never forget what you said. You're like, well, I got a house.
So you're going to have to look for somewhere to live, and I'll have a house, which I wanted to get anyway.
It was funny and annoying at the same time. I was like, these little rich girls, they have different. This ain't real life. But anyways, you negotiated a contract, and we really got the house for a steal.
Mm-hmm.
And I got credit for all the rent from the year before.
Yeah.
And then your mom actually decided to finance the house for us, or for you.
Why did she do that? I don't know.
Because you asked her to.
I know, but why did I ask her to? I'm trying to think.
You knew we were going to get married.
I know, but why didn't I just do it myself? I can't remember why.
I don't know. But
there must have been a reason.
You were like, it's an investment. And she was like, I think it's a good investment. And so basically your mom wrote a check for us to buy the house. And I was like, what kind of family is this? I mean, my family might write you a check to buy groceries.
Yeah, it was something like that, like not taking out a mortgage. I can't remember. But yes, she did.
Well, it was still a mortgage.
It was still a mortgage and we paid it, but it was able to be paid in cash, which made a difference.
We got a better deal.
Yeah.
Too. I think it was
that's what it was. Yeah, a cash deal was a better deal, obviously.
We ended up walking out of the office with that house for $50,000.
Yeah.
Which, we sold it for 110. So
yeah.
I don't know, that's a pretty good deal.
Right.
But when you have those kind of resources, you can make things like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that the people that were selling the house were desperate to sell it. So you negotiated. I didn't even get involved in that.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
Which is why I was like, so if this didn't work out, then it's my house, bro.
Yeah, but that was kind of annoying to me. I was like, ugh. I mean, it is what it is, but ugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you have to, of course, all the situation you were in general with the Kairos and the credit. I feel like that probably highlighted the fact that I can't do this myself. It's annoying.
It was a very sketchy time.
Yeah.
I mean, but I didn't like that. That was
yeah, no, I wouldn't have liked that either.
That wasn't that didn't help my manhood.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants, even if we're engaged, somebody's family to buy their house for them.
Right. Well, it was actually, she bought it for me, but anyway.
Still. Well, I mean, you say that, but actually, I was going to be making the payment, so.
That's true.
It wasn't that different.
Unless something happened, yeah. Okay, so we bought a house.
We bought a house, but we weren't even engaged yet.
Yes. But I knew it was coming. I mean, I didn't know when or how or where, but I knew it was coming.
You thought?
I thought I knew, yeah.
So what would you have done if we hadn't got engaged? Told me to move out?
Yeah, I would have given you a deadline.
I would have been like, no, I'm not moving. I'm going to stay here.
I would have been like, well, that's going to be a situation for you.
I wouldn't do that. I would have moved. I'd have been like, I'm out. Bye. So the next, I guess, what was next? So I was trying to plan like how I was going to ask you to marry me. I knew I needed to talk to your mom.
Yeah.
At that time, I wasn't really that. I talked to your mom a few times. Didn't really know her, but I really got to know your sister real well. I really liked her. I loved her vibe, and I was just asking her advice. How to do things, and I made the decision that I was going to ask you to marry me on Valentine's, and I always had a big Valentine's dinner at Kairos.
Yeah.
So,
well, okay. So you
didn't know.
Right. So how am I supposed to talk about? I mean, the leading up to.
Well, what happened was I was going to ask you to marry me on Valentine's, but I knew you were expecting me to pop the question. But I don't like to be controlled, and I don't like to do things. People, if they're expecting me to do something, I always try to do something different. Still.
Yes.
But I staged a meeting with your mom the Friday after Valentine. Like, I made a big deal out of it. Like, I'm having lunch with your mom.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make you think, which I did, that I'm going to talk to her about asking you to marry me.
Right.
You remember?
Yeah.
But I'd actually had set the meeting up with your whole family like 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
So
you had said you were so busy with the Valentine's dinner and stuff that you needed to wait till right after that, and then you wanted to have lunch with my mom then.
Yeah, but I didn't tell you like specifically, but you knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then it was like 2 or 3 weeks out from Valentine's. It was towards the end of January after I had the ring. I planned dinner with your mom, and she wanted your brother Hobie to be there. And so I was like, I'm cool if you invite everybody. Let's just have dinner, but we got to figure out a way for Haley not to know that I'm there. Because if Haley knows I'm at your house, she's going to know why.
Yeah.
So your friend Crystal took you somewhere, some restaurant.
To Sticks. It was
sure?
it's like hibachi, like sushi place. Yeah.
Was it just y'all? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, it was just me and her, I think.
You don't know.
I know it was me and her. I don't know.
Well, I know she was giving us like text updates of every moment. And we had dinner. We talked, all things. Your mom knew why I was there. She was very emotional, but at the same time, very supportive. But then your brother just started bawling his eyes out. And he was like, marriage means something in our family. And I was like, okay. And he was like, my dad just died and, all the things. And so I was like, I'm aware of all that.
But that was I feel like that was a very tender time for still.
It was very emotional, but at the same time, I got a little, I won't say annoyed with Hobie, but it could have been if I was in a different place, but it was almost humorous the way he was. I felt like he was supposed to take on the role of your dad.
Well, it kind of aggravates me a little bit when you say that, because I think that was still in a period that we were just still, the dynamics were like, we were figuring out like, who does what and how does this work when my dad, somebody described it to me like you have a full 4 in a row board filled up, and then you take out a middle piece and all the pieces fall into different places.
Yeah.
But you don't know where they're going to fall. So like, I think that he was just very emotional, very like feeling like maybe he should do something or say something or be a certain way. And my mom didn't even know how to like navigate that as a single mom, so to speak.
No, she was doing great. She was asking all the right questions. She was doing the right things. But what was humorous to me was that he's younger than me. And so he was like trying to give me like daddy advice. And, you're going to have marriage counseling. And I was like, yeah, duh. We got that. We got everything covered. But it was cute. And I went through the motions and did all the things.
Yeah, but you got to remember too that like we had been dating a hot minute. So they didn't really know you that well, or like kind of your routines or just how you were and living day to day. I feel like there was like trust there and confidence there.
Yeah.
But as far as like the details and the minutia of like, okay, I want to ask her to marry me. Like what, how do you do that versus how do we do that would be, you don't know the differences.
Yeah. But my bottom line with that was I just need your mom to approve. It'd be nice to have everybody approve, but if they didn't, it wouldn't have really mattered.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we got through that. I mean, Abby was very supportive. Hobie was very supportive.
Yeah.
They were both excited.
Right.
Your mom was very emotional, but also very excited. And Hobie was big on, he told me, like Dad would have approved of you. And then I think it was then that your mom told me that the beginning of 2012 that your parents have a meeting with their friends where they ask what their prayers are for the year.
Well, it was always New Year's Eve. So my parents, like some of their best friends, Terry and Stu, would come and spend New Year's. I don't know if they came New Year's Day or spent New Year's Eve, but it was the New Year's. And it was
the previous year, 2012.
Yeah. And so the beginning of that year, they talked about what they were like hoping for, dreaming for, praying for, whatever for that year.
For the year.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
And so my dad had said that, and wrote it down actually, that he was just going to be praying and believing that I would meet my husband that year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I did.
Well, I went to dinner with your family.
Even though, hold on, just like to remember, like that was the beginning of January 2012. And he passed away very unexpectedly June 2012. Mm-hmm. And we went on our first date November 2012. So.
Well, just remember in January, I think it was January 23rd. It was after I already knew I was going to ask you to marry me. I went to dinner with all y'all.
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
And I feel like your mom told me that story there. Mm-hmm. We're at Jim Marcos in Homewood. And it was a little surreal. And I could tell that she was happy, but also at the same time she was sad because she was missing your dad.
Yeah.
And I did note that was January 23rd, which is Hobie's wife, Val's birthday. Mm-hmm. That was the day I got arrested in 1993. So that had already been a dark day for me. Like, even after, I would always get depressed on January 23rd. And it was like somehow that day got redeemed after that. And it's never been a dark day for me since then.
I was going to say, I don't even think I knew that.
No, it was up to then.
Yeah.
But it was like it got turned around somehow. Mm-hmm. So it was crazy.
That's neat.
I mean, it was a good crazy, but it was still crazy.
Yeah.
But then we went into planning mode. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you to marry me at Kairos during the Valentine's meal. Mm-hmm. And your mom thought that was a great idea. Abby was on board. Hobie was on board. Everybody was on board. And then that was like a once-a-year thing I did for Valentine's, where it was like a limited menu. And I told you, how did I even get you to want to be there? I can't remember.
I went into business mode.
Oh, you were?
And I was like, oh, you do a Valentine's party and you want to book it up. I mean, that was one of your biggest. I was like, oh, I can help you get people there.
Yeah.
Let me do that. And so I just started inviting, like, obviously, my family and friends.
Friends and family.
And because I was like, I'm going to pack that house out, baby.
And you did.
Yeah.
But you thought you were helping me out with my little event, but you're actually planning your engagement party.
Yes.
And you didn't know.
Yeah.
You did not know about it. But I was paranoid about the ring because it wasn't ready yet. And Abby had decided, Abby was taking charge of that. And then I actually didn't get the ring in my possession until the day of February the 14th, about 3 hours before the party started. So I was so paranoid and worried about that. But my restaurant manager, Denise Nolan, was taking over that part. I remember she sent me a text while I was prepping the kitchen. The eagle has landed. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, the eagle has landed. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. She was like, I have the ring. And I was like, oh, why didn't you just say you had the ring? But your mom had went all out. She wanted champagne for everybody. And she didn't have enough glasses. And it was a big ordeal. Mm-hmm. And I invited my family over from Atlanta. And it was a lot. But I had convinced you that I wouldn't be able to do much on Valentine's because I would be so busy cooking and working.
Right.
And so we actually celebrated our Valentine's the night before. Mm-hmm. And we went to a thing. Grace and Truth had some kind of couples thing. Remember that?
Yeah, that's the church you were going to. Yeah, it had some kind of, I don't know what it was.
It was just like a couples I don't remember what it was either.
Couple.
I just remember us being there.
Something.
I remember we got a picture taken. I gave you a Valentine's present, and you thought that was it. And
I had gone all out that year. Well, I say that year. It was like the first year we got Valentine. But I mean, I was like a schmitten kitten. Is that what they say? And
I was so glad that I would be giving you a diamond ring the next day, because if not, I would have been like guilty.
I had gotten this sign that says, "I have found the one my soul loves," like huge.
And then you left it on my porch.
But didn't I leave other presents too everywhere?
Oh no, there were presents.
I don't even remember what I did.
In my house, there was presents in my car.
Okay, yeah, that was when my gift love language was coming in hot. Didn't I get you knives?
You bought me like a
knife,
$500 Japanese.
It wasn't $500, but it was over $100.
It was not cheap.
It was not cheap. I do remember that.
That was the real deal.
Yes,
it was a Japanese Hinkle's chef knife. I mean, it was.
And I knew nothing about it. I just went into like this kitchen store. I was like, "Show me the nicest, most expensive knife."
And
I'll take it.
You came out with the best knife. And then you had negotiated with my staff, and they were giving me ice cream and cheesecake. And
gosh, I forgot about that. I did do a lot.
It was a very lot.
I was in it to win it.
No, but I was like, if she hadn't if I didn't know that I was going to give her a diamond ring tomorrow, I would be feeling some kind of guilty.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that, but you didn't, even if you hadn't given me a diamond ring, I mean, I really... I was actually like, I am so going to win that. I'm going to outdo. I mean, not that I always want to win, but kind of.
You thought you did.
But then, yeah, I remember the final gift. See, I forgot all that cheesecake stuff. And
there was stuff everywhere.
I know. I forgot about that. I was so good. I was like, yeah. So, but then the last thing was at night, this sign that where did I leave it? On your car? Or no, on your porch? I can't remember.
You left it on my porch. I opened the front door. And there was this big sign that said, "I have found the one who my soul loves."
The good Lord knows that I knew that you were the one, because now that I'm like replaying it and like we're talking about, I'm like, I was a little cray-cray there.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was some extra. I think Abby even commented to you one time, because you cooked me dinner.
Yeah.
And you made me pizza, but then you brought the dog a bone.
Which, if anyone knows me,
you don't like dogs. You brought a bone for the dog.
Well, the songs Beyonce, "Crazy in Love," why those songs are written.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, I don't like dogs. I can't even believe. I'm like, did I buy that dog a bone?
I remember Abby saying, "Haley, bone? What are you doing?"
And now that you know me, you know that is like.
Yeah.
Not even really me.
For y'all that know, Haley cares nothing about animals.
That's not true. That is not true.
What animal do you care
it's
about?
not. I mean, I think some are sweet.
No. What animal do you care about?
A kitten before it becomes a cat.
Silly. Anyways, you outdid yourself.
I did. I outdid and overdid.
Yes, you did.
Both of those things, yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that shocked me was Steve's church was Mennonite in origin and roots. Mm-hmm. So they were like teetotalers as far as alcohol. Mm-hmm. And your mom wanted to bring champagne. And, he didn't. They didn't. I don't even think they had mouthwash. It was weird. But he was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And I think she wanted champagne for everybody in the restaurant.
My mom was like, we're going to have champagne.
So she ended up needing like 75 glasses. And I was like, I don't know. Go buy some. I don't know what to tell you.
Which she probably did.
She did.
Yeah.
I still have those glasses to this day. She wanted everybody to have a champagne toast.
That's so funny.
And gosh, how many people were at that table? It was like 20 people that you invited.
More than 20, I think.
It was like family,
25, maybe,
friends, but everybody there knew what was going to happen except for you. Mm-hmm. And then my Aunt Denise, my Uncle Kenny, my cousin Beth, and her husband Tim, they all came over.
I was just trying to make you some money.
It was neat.
Yeah.
But then we were really slammed, like trying to get it done. The plan was for me to come out during with dessert. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the week before I went through Taco Bell and got a burrito or something. And there was a hot sauce pack that says, "Will you marry me?" on it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm going to use that. And then I forget exactly how it happened, but everybody got their dessert except for you, because I was supposed to bring your dessert out. Mm-hmm. And the girl that was waiting on you came back there and was like, I ain't going back out there. She's mad about her dessert.
That is not true.
She don't understand why everybody else got their dessert and she don't. So you need to come do what you need to do. And so Brandon was helping me. And I think we made a video of that. They did.
Someone made a video of you like starting back in the kitchen.
It was Brandon. He videoed me from the back. So we walk out there. I hand you your dessert. And you're like, oh. But then
what was that like? You didn't finish that. Oh.
You were just happy to see me, and then you were happy to have your dessert. And
yeah, because I hadn't really seen you the whole dinner.
No, I've been busy.
Yeah.
And I asked you to read the little Taco Bell hot sauce thing.
So I read the "Will you marry me?" and I think it took me a minute to register. And then I like kind of got this panic, and I like leaned into you. Were you on your knees at that point?
No, I was trying to get you to read it, and then I was going to do the thing.
So I read it, and I like kind of leaned into you, and I like whispered in your ear, like, "Have you talked to my mom?" I just wanted to make sure, like, this wasn't, because I could just see the whole thing being
a disaster.
Not a disaster, but more like stressful. Because I'm very like I can read a room and people, and that if she was uncomfortable or felt like hurt or any kind of thing, because remember the things were still fresh for my dad, and that was like I was hypersensitive about that. That I just knew that I couldn't fully like embrace the moment if you hadn't, you know. So so I said, "Have you talked to my mom?"
I think I said yes. Now don't mess this up.
Yeah. I think so too. But then I could relax, like, oh, okay, good.
Well, she came running over. She wanted to read the thing too.
Yeah. So and then you dropped down on your knee.
Well, I used to call you my miss.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that too.
That was how I asked you. I said, "Miss, will you be my missus?"
Yeah.
And you said, "I will."
I said, "I will." And then,
then everybody started hollering.
It was very sweet.
Because everybody in the restaurant knew that was happening except you.
Yeah.
Which is weird that you didn't like pick up on any vibe.
I know.
I remember being at your family's when I was asking them, when we were having that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They were like wine glasses and dishes. And I was like, oh, we got to wash these and put them up. And your mom was like, why? And I said, because she's on her way back. She's going to see all these dishes and know that people have been here. And everybody there, Hobie, Abby, your in-laws, your mom, said in unison, Haley don't pay attention to stuff like that. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, no, she don't.
But even if I had noticed that, I'd probably like, oh, some people came over for dinner. Cool. Like,
see, but that would have been something I would have noticed right away.
Yeah.
Like, where did all these dishes come from? Where did all these glasses, these wine glasses? Why is there 10 wine glasses? But
I would have thought, like, man, I haven't been washing my wine glasses for a week or so. I should do that.
Yeah. But they obviously knew you in a way that at that time I didn't really know you.
Right.
Like some of the stuff, I just didn't know you. So it was.
You don't know. Yeah. So that was really neat. That whole thing, how it was very much a surprise and how everyone was there. And it was very surreal, actually.
So it was crazy. Well, we had a guy there doing music there on purpose for that. And then Denise had hired a photographer to come.
Oh, yeah.
On purpose for that reason. And then you said yes.
Mm-hmm.
So then your friend Crystal had made all those signs.
Yes.
He popped a question. She said yes.
Yeah.
So it was just a really neat night.
It was really fun.
And I remember the end of the night, Steve like pulling up on me, like, I think you were right. And I was like, about what? And he said that God has somebody for you, because that always been a disagreement with us. Because I always said, I believe that if Jesus has a plan for my life, he knows who I'm going to marry.
Right.
But he would always say, no, it's whoever you choose, and then you just deal with it. And I just could never get behind that kind of theology.
Yeah.
And then after all those years of debating that, he pulled up on me. He was like, I think you're right. You were supposed to marry Haley. It's supposed to be Haley. And I was like, I know. Duh. But it was a neat night.
That was a neat night.
And it was.
Did you feel like relieved when it was done?
I was just tired.
Was your mom there?
No, my mom was in rehab.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if they let her out. I couldn't remember.
No,
Yeah.
she wasn't there.
That sounds terrible. They let her out, but yeah, I mean.
Well, they let her out for our wedding.
Right. That was good.
But we were getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
But here we go.
So that was February 14th. And I remember distinctly right after that, talking with my mom about like, well, when are we going to get married? Like, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And because you didn't want to get married when it was super hot because you'd seen all these weddings catering and blah, blah, blah.
Well, by that time, I've been catering weddings for like 10, 15 years. And I watched these guys that would get dressed up in these tuxedos in the heat. And it was just misery and pain and sweat and just death. And I told you, I'm not doing that. If you want me to get married when it's hot, I'm wearing shorts. So
our thing was we're either going to want to do it in the spring.
It's going to be the spring or it's going to be the fall.
A couple months or the fall.
Yeah.
And I think we're just like, let's just do it.
Well, your mom came. We met. I think that was the first time she'd ever been at my house, even though she bought the house.
Yeah.
Or she gave the money for the
house.
I believe I cooked dinner. It was just you, me, and her. Mm-hmm. And it was only a week or so out after I asked you to marry me, and we're supposed to be planning doing our initial plans for our wedding.
Right.
And she wanted to look at pictures. And so I was like, well, what kind of pictures? And she was like, I'd like to see family pictures of Granny. You always talk to her about that. So I pulled my picture albums out, and then I have some boxes that I have pictures in. And when I opened one of them, there was a stack of Polaroids, and I was trying to push those aside. And she was like, what's that? And I said, that's just some pictures we don't want to look at. And she said, well, what is it? And I said, I don't want to look at that. And she said, honestly, I think
you said, I don't know if you want to look at that.
Well, by that time, I didn't want her to think I was like it was like porn or something.
Right.
So I said, those are my prison pictures. And they were Polaroids from all those years in prison. And she said, well, I think I'd like to see those. And she sat there and went through them. And
each and every one.
So here we are sitting on the couch, me and my future mother-in-law.
She's like, why do you have the picture of the palm tree when you're in prison?
It was the background. But
I know, but these are all new things to...
There was a lot of conversation, but somewhere during the process of that, I remembered that my vision book that I had, my notebook that I wrote, that I had a part of it that was for my wife. And I went and found my notebook and came back and we started reading it, and it was you to a T. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to when I was dating Karina, after that didn't work out, I actually ripped that out of that book and was like, obviously this ain't meant to be.
Wait, pause. This is the vision book that you wrote when you were in prison. Was it when you were in solitary confinement?
No, it was like 2 weeks before I got out.
Oh, 2 weeks before I got out. Okay.
Yeah. And so everything else in there had happened except for that part. Mm-hmm. And I had pretty much given up on that part. And since we were dating, I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah.
And we went and got it, started reading it, and it was you really to a T. Mm-hmm. Everything in there was you.
Yeah.
Everything.
It was neat. Give an example of something that was me.
Just that pretty much that we would be opposites, that where you were strong, I'll be weak, and where you were weak, I'll be strong, which is that not the story of our life?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
But even then, and then just characteristics and stuff, it was weird.
Yeah.
But we read that and we nailed down a date of April 27th. I can't remember why that was the date. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And you told me you wanted to get married where your parents got married in Florida.
I actually think the main reason, this is just, could be wrong, but I feel like the main reason was like, I wanted to go on my honeymoon on the beach, and then that was right before the prices got really high. So we were like, yes, let's do right before May.
I don't remember, but I remember you and your mom talking about dresses and flowers and venues and all that. And I remember just getting stressed out and almost having an anxiety attack. And you just put your hand on me and stopped and was like, my parents have already given me a budget for the wedding. This is what my dad would want. And I was like, okay. Because I was strapped for cash during that time. I mean, it would have been nice. Mm-hmm. But then you want to get married in Definiak Springs, Florida, where your mom was from, where your parents got married.
Same church.
Yeah. And I initially was like, no, I don't like that idea. And it was because I didn't want to like work people. Like if you want to come to my wedding, you got to drive for 4 hours. But then the more we talked about it, the more I thought, I got a lot of family that would be offended if I didn't send them an invitation, and friends even. But if we're getting married in Florida, I can just send everybody an invitation.
Yeah.
They probably ain't going to come.
Yeah.
But it ended up, that was what we landed on. It worked out. So.
Mm-hmm. And that was really neat because it was the same church. It was the church that my mom grew up in Defuniak Springs, the First Methodist Church in Defuniak. And
United Methodist.
Oh, United Methodist, yeah. And it was like on the lake, and it was just a pretty scenery. And yeah, I mean, there's just pictures of my parents, going down that same aisle. So, yeah. And especially like, I mean, I know I keep driving this point in, but it was just where I was at. Like, it was still, losing my dad was still raw. So it was really kind of neat to be able to do something that was like a nod to
your dad.
My dad and like them together as a couple.
Well, I wasn't on board with that in the beginning.
Yeah, you said that.
It took me a minute. But then the more we talked about it, the more I liked it.
Yeah.
And then I started studying it. Like I studied, like your dad wore a red shirt on purpose just to make a statement.
Yeah.
With his tuxedo.
And a white tuxedo.
Yeah.
My mom did not want him to wear the red shirt, but
the more
he was about to wear that red shirt.
The more they didn't want him to wear the red shirt, the more he had to wear the red shirt.
Yeah.
So that was why I wore a red tie.
Yeah.
To honor him. So, I mean, I would have did the shirt, but I was not trying to push it.
Yeah.
But by the end of the night, we had everything pretty much nailed down. And when you were leaving, your mom was standing on the porch and she said, "Sweet boy, my daughter trusts you, so I trust you." And she said, "I feel the Holy Spirit in this house." And I felt like, wow, that's probably the best compliment anybody could give me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was leaving, she was standing on the edge of the porch and she started laughing. And she said, "Isn't Jesus amazing?" And I was like, "Yeah, he is. He's awesome." And she said, "Never in a million years, ever in a million years, would I have dreamed that I would be planning my daughter's wedding with my future son-in-law sitting on his couch looking at his prison pictures."
That was hilarious.
That was sweet. And
we got to remember too, I mean, to put it in perspective here, we got engaged February 14th.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we're going to get married in April 27th. So that's literally February.
It would have been 5
March,
months.
April, 2.5 months.
But it would have, would have been 5 months. From
right. But I'm talking about from a planning perspective that it's 2.5 months to put together a wedding.
Yeah.
And my mom just doesn't want to have any kind of podunk wedding. Okay. I am 32 years old. She's been waiting for me to get married for a long time. This is not going to be like your shotgun, like run of the mill type of thing. So,
well, she told me like, I can do this. You just have to let me.
That sounds like my mom.
So I was like, that just seems like a very lot. But she figured it out.
She was like, oh, it's a lot that I want to take on, is what I do.
It is. But to take us back to the Straight Outta Prison podcast and the whole storyline,
mm-hmm.
Everything was working out. Everything was going according to plan. We went and spent the weekend in Florida. That was the first time I met Terry, your mom's friend, who's going to be our wedding planner.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else I met that weekend too.
Jackie,
your mom's friend,
my childhood best friend, mother.
Yes,
and our mom. So Jackie and my mom were pregnant with us together, so they had been longtime friends
in Tallahassee, right?
In Tallahassee, yeah.
Well, the thing I remember the most about Jackie was when we met. I didn't know her.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if she knew me. I didn't know how she knew me. But she said, "Jesus gave me a word for y'all." And I was like, "He did?" Do you remember this?
Yes, very well.
And you want to say what she said?
Well, I don't remember the word. I remember what it means, but I don't remember the actual word.
She just gave us a word.
Yeah.
It was about what holy meant.
Yeah. And being set apart.
It meant different.
Different, yeah.
And she said, your story's not going to look like everybody else's story. And she actually wrote it out for us.
We have a picture of it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I remember, like my takeaway, I don't remember details, but I remember kind of the gist.
Yeah.
And it was, and actually, I've kind of clung to this as our years have unfolded, that we're not going to look or do things like other people do, or maybe like what seems normal.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's like, that is our path. That is our story, that it's not going to look. And I guess for us to just like embrace that and not let that bring us like fear, think like, oh, we're doing it wrong, or, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
But it was basically that your story is not going to look like a cookie cutter story. It's going to be unique and different, and that's okay. And gosh, 10 years in, 8, 9 years in, how much we needed somebody to tell us that on the front end.
It's so true, because sometimes I have wished, not that I've wished for cookie cutter, but I've thought, man, cookie cutter would be so much easier.
How much easier that would be. Make more
this thing
sense.
is freaking stressful.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing that stood out to me the most about Jackie was that she told me her story of being a student at Florida State, and she was actually in the girls' house, a sorority, with one of the victims of Ted Bundy, who came in and passed her bedroom for one of his victims.
Yes, Ted, but she saw him run by.
That freaked me out. It was
it's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, we went down there. Remember that?
Went down where?
That to Definiak Springs.
Yeah, I mean, we were just planning. But I mean, I have to say, like, one thing that stood out more, I know we're getting to this, but like, I thought you were going there when you said back to the straight out of prison storyline.
I am.
Okay.
I'll get there, but that's not yet.
But yeah, so, I mean, I don't remember details. I mean, my mom basically transformed a very tired country club into Phoenix Springs.
So what happened was, we went to the church, looked at the church, got everything planned out. We were supposed to do the reception across the street at the, whatever that was.
Something, I don't know.
Something on the
club
lake.
Right on the lake or something.
But they said you couldn't have alcohol.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
a problem.
your mom was like, no, that's a deal breaker.
Move on. Yeah.
So they found it was called the Definiak Springs Country Club.
Well, and it's funny because, so I have memories like
but a country club.
My pop, it was a lot nicer back in the day. And my pop used to play golf there and was a member of it. And I have like distinct memories every time I went to stay with Pop and Mom, that's what I called them.
Yeah.
She would take us swimming at the country club, and it was like a really cool, neat thing. Like even my cousins and like me, my brother, my sister, like the country club was like, ooh, we're going to stay with Mom and Pop. We get to go to the country club. It was a little more like nicer, happening place, but then.
But hang on, time out. Just being from Phoenix City, it wasn't really a country club. It was a golf course with some pools.
With a nice pool and a snack bar.
Yeah. So anyways, when we went in to look at the place, it had been run down.
It was tired.
Since your mom moved away. Yeah. And there was actually...
Since my mom moved away.
Well, she'd been gone for like 30 years.
I know, it was funny.
But there was the place that was the biggest space in that room had turned into like some kind of business took it over.
I don't know. Oh, a church maybe was meeting there.
I don't remember. There's a lot of filing cabinets and all things. But I just remember her talking to the people, and they were saying, well, we can't move this, we can't move that.
Well, hold on. I remember walking in and just seeing the space and me being like naive and how I am. I'm like, I remember putting out my hands. I'm like, it's perfect. Looks great. And Mom told me later, like her and Terry looked at each other like, what is she seeing that we're not seeing?
I even knew that it didn't look great.
I didn't care. I'm like,
kind of junky. But then your mom said, well, can we move some of this out? And they said, well, no, there's nowhere to move it. And she said, well, do you have a shed? And they said, no, we don't have a shed. And she said, how about I donate you a shed? So she ended up buying them a shed, donating a shed for them to move all that stuff in, and then repainting the whole thing, the whole shebang. And then my friend Chef Bob was doing our food for our wedding, and they told me that there was a full kitchen there. So he had sent me, that was part of my thing when I was there, to like scope out the kitchen, make sure he had everything he needed. And I had to call them and tell them they don't have anything that you need. I mean, they have a room that they say is a kitchen, but there's not anything like operational back there. So he ended up having to like bring all his own equipment, stuff like that. But it was really cool. But basically, she took a rundown golf course country club and converted it into
They transformed that
beautiful
sucker.
Oh, it was amazing.
I mean,
I can't
like,
believe they did that.
the middle thing in the middle, like, hanging from the ceiling, whatever that was. They changed out all the pictures in the bathrooms and, like...
She basically gutted the place and redid it for our wedding. But the guy that was, like, running the place was so thankful for that. But,
I was like, you don't realize it, but Luann Hobart's in charge now.
But the thing that was the funniest to me was your mom's friend Terry, who I love now, but I didn't know her then, was I said, I'm going to have Alabama groom's cake, and I'm going to bring my Nick Saban cutout to the wedding. And I was making a joke. I was just kidding. I didn't even care at that point. And she like got real haughty and vicious, like, well, no, you're not.
Vicious is a strong word.
She let me have it.
She was not vicious. Good Lord.
Yeah, she was towards me.
She wasn't.
She was letting me know.
No, she wasn't.
So I let her know back that Haley and I are the ones getting married and we're in control.
I did not want that thing there.
But the only reason I brought it was because she told me that I couldn't.
I'm glad that you have grown personally as a man in maturity from that time to now.
You didn't tell me at the time you didn't want it. You went along with it.
Yeah, but it was with a lot of like, oh.
That made the wedding who we are. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
That did not make the wedding.
Yes, it did. You married Alabama.
You know you are being a little bit extra right now. That did not make the wedding. The raw oyster bar made the wedding.
For you, I don't even like oysters.
Okay. Anyway.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not even there yet. So we're planning the wedding. We got through all that stuff. We come back home, rocking and rolling. Everything's set up. Everything's working out. I had a job to do a Kairos prison ministry thing that I did 2 or 3 times a year in certain prisons at Elmore Correctional Facility outside of Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we get back and everything's going good. Everything's what it's supposed to be. And I did a catering job 2 or 3 times a year for the Kairos prison ministry. This time it was at Elmore Correctional Facility outside of Montgomery. And it was like a lunch, dinner, like 3 days in a row. So it was like a busy weekend. It's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of deal. And
I think you went to go like check in or something.
Well, it was the first delivery, the first day.
Yeah.
And as I was pulling in, the lieutenant called me and he said, you can't come in the prison. And I said, that's fine. I'll just put it on a cart. I won't come in anyways. And he said, well, I need to tell you why. And I said, something happened. Was something up? Because I'd already been cleared. I've been in Elmore several times. And he said, there's an active warrant out for your arrest. And I said, for what? And he said, have you ever been to Mobile? And I said, why? And he said, there's an active warrant for you in Mobile County. And I knew that was the last place where we had an armed robbery that we had not dealt with, that had never like came up or whatever. And
this is how many years after you've been out?
14 years after I was out, 20 years after it happened.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was a lot.
Delayed. We'll call it a delayed reaction on the law enforcement part.
It was a very, I don't know. I went into like a panic of a tailspin. I dropped the food off. I went back to the Walmart in Wetumpka and I called you and I said, I need you to come pick me up because I can't drive. And then you started freaking out because you didn't understand. I was trying to explain to you it's an old thing that came up and it was very complicated, I guess.
Well, and like just nerve-wracking.
Well, but you came down and you were going to pick me up, but then we decided it wouldn't be a good thing for me to leave my vehicle down there because I still had the job for the whole weekend.
Right.
And so you followed me back to Birmingham in case so that a cop could get behind me. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then I just had to come back and deal with it. And I was in a total panic.
Yeah.
Because I'd been through that, in 2007 with the stuff in Dothan and Houston County. And then now we're having to deal with this. And I think we're a month out from our wedding.
Yeah.
And our wedding was in Florida. And I knew that if I got arrested and bonded out, that they wouldn't let me leave the state. So it was just all these things.
Yeah.
It was such it was a panic kind of deal. But should we talk about that in this one and finish it up?
Yeah.
But what were your emotions like when I called you and told you that?
Well, I didn't understand. And initially, I know that I had a million questions. But then I think when I realized, it was so long ago and it really was.
Yeah.
And then I was worried about telling my mom because it just, honestly, the whole, prison arrested life was just so foreign.
Yeah.
We didn't know, you can explain things in no details and, well, it's because of this and that and this. But, all of those things are, we don't understand any of that.
Made no sense.
So when you don't understand something, it's easier to question it. And, when you understand something, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But I knew that she wasn't going to.
And she didn't. She was alarmed. And
rightfully so. I was alarmed too. Yeah. Because you're like, am I missing something? Are you not, in the very beginning, I was like, are you not telling me something? Because it just felt so far, fetched, I guess, because like you said, it happened 20 years and 14 years since you got out. So it's
it was crazy.
Am I missing something here? Are you not telling me something? Because it just seems so crazy. But once, I kind of got confidence and no, I don't, I think it is crazy and it's far-fetched. But then I knew I was going to have to convince my mom. Or, I wanted her because, I want that support and to feel like so.
Well, no, we actually set up a meeting with her with Steve so he could explain it to her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And he did explain it to her and did real good. But we had to be proactive and fast with that. Mm-hmm. And I remember initially I was trying to deal with that on my own. I called down there to make sure it was accurate.
Well, let me just pause and say too, because you taught me this, an active warrant means if you get pulled over for speeding or a light out, whatever.
Anything.
And they're going to pull up the right, and it's going to show, and they're going to arrest you and bring you in.
Well, they're going to arrest me wherever I am, Jefferson County, Montgomery, wherever I am, and they're going to hold me in jail until I'm transferred to Mobile.
Which could take who knows how long.
Especially Mobile. Mobile is one of the busiest counties in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I knew all that.
And we were a month out from getting married.
Yeah. But my panic was if I resolve this and go get arrested and it's not resolved, they're not even going to let me leave the state to go get married. How can I go to Florida and get married?
Yeah.
But when I'm not allowed to leave the state. It was just it was just such a heavy, why now?
It's funny how our straight out of prison title just flares back up. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You think it's over. It ain't over.
It's not over. But then this was another one of those areas where Steve, this was his expertise. He was well connected in the criminal justice system. He was able to connect me with somebody through somebody. Mm-hmm. And we got in touch with a lawyer in Mobile. And he said, I need you to come down here tomorrow, make sure you're dressed up and you look great, and we're going to go in front of the judge, but we're not going to have an appointment. We're just going to go in front of the judge and kind of push ourselves in the courtroom. Remember all that?
Yeah. And it was you could be waiting all day because it's not an appointment, so be prepared for that, basically.
Yeah, we weren't on the docket.
Right.
So we go down the night before. I was so scared that morning I couldn't even hardly walk. Because I thought they were going to... Because he said, make sure you come with enough money to bond yourself out. And then we met him right before, and he was showing you the name of the bonds people, and, you call this and that.
It was
It was
a lot for me, too.
It was surreal.
Yeah.
But so we walk in the courtroom, packed courtroom. I mean, Mobile, that's a big county and a lot of crime, a lot of stuff,
A lot of people going to jail.
It was packed out.
Yeah.
And he basically walked up there and pushed himself into the docket and was like, "Excuse me, Your Honor, I want to." And they didn't want him to be there, which made me paranoid. And I just remember looking back at the courtroom, and there were probably 200 people in the courtroom. And just looking at your face was like you were like shell-shocked. And I learned right after that you'd never even been in a courtroom before.
That was my first time ever in a courtroom.
So he pushes himself into the getting before the Your Honor.
AKA the judge.
This could be nothing but Jesus could make stuff like this happen. And he brings it up, and the judge looked at me and then looked at the DA and said, "It's only been 20 years."
Only been 20 years?
That's what he said. And I was like, oh, this ain't going good.
Well.
This ain't going good. So he started like rattling off my accomplishments, and I've been out of prison for 15 years or 14 years, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And the judge was not hearing him. He was just kind of dismissive of him. And the clerk spoke up and said, "I was the one that made that warrant active. I was trying to clean out our records, and I found out that this was unresolved, so I activated the warrant." And then the DA said something, basically like coming to my defense, and was like, "Actually, the arresting officer moved to so-and-so, and I think he died, so we don't have any witnesses." And I was just like, I was up there in a panic, like, which way is this going? Like, how is this resolving itself? This is so crazy. But then the DA said, "Actually, we don't have any evidence in this case, so there's no reason to try to continue with this." And the judge looked at the DA and was like, "I can't move a motion to dismiss a case. I'm the judge. Like, one of y'all got to do that." And then the clerk said, "I think we should just dismiss this." And then the judge said, "You're the clerk. You can't say that. You can't make a motion." And
here I am. I'm on the sideline thinking all this is normal.
No, I was like, this is my life in your hands, and it's teeter-tottering either way. And the judge looked at the DA, who was a young district attorney, and said, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And the DA was like, "I move that we dismiss this case." And he was like, "Case dismissed," and slammed his gavel. And when I turned around, there were like 300 people looking at me like, what the hell just happened? Like they had never seen nothing like that before. And as I was walking out, there were people giving me high fives and praise to Jesus and glory hallelujahs. And I mean, I was doing all that too. But then we go out there and the guy was like, "I need $500 in cash."
Was it 500 or 5,000?
No, it was just 500.
Oh, okay.
He was only there for 10 minutes.
I don't know. Yeah.
So he was like, "I need it in cash." But I don't even think I had you had the money. I didn't have any money.
I had the money.
I was in panic mode.
I was like, sure, okay, this is the next thing. Here's your money. Thank you very much.
But I was on top of the world after that. I was like, well,
I'm on top of the world. Hey.
I was like, "Hey, babe, we're already in Mobile. We got to go get our wedding license. Why don't we just ride over to Walton County, Florida, and get our marriage
You're
license?"
like, now that I'm free.
That was crazy.
Once again, I don't think that even now, I mean, more now, but definitely not then, understood.
No, you just took it in stride. It was like, this is what we got to do is figure it out. But I'm like,
I was like, perfect. Did that. Let's go on to the next thing.
No, but I was trying to explain to you, do you not understand this is a Class A felony? This can give me 20 years in prison.
I promise you, I did not understand that.
It was crazy. But it like, in one hour, it just flipped on itself, and then we were free.
So that could have been 20 years?
Yeah.
Wow. That would have definitely put a wrench in our wedding plans for sure.
I don't think you understood the severity of it, but I did.
I think that I could feel that you were really stressed. I was trying to
I was more than stressed. I was in a total panic. I didn't know what to do. But we, instead of going back to Birmingham, we cut across Florida, went to Walton County, pulled up into Defuniak Springs, Florida, and got our wedding license. That
is crazy. I do remember that being like it It was
crazy.
stressful. I mean, it was stressful for me, and I was kind of like, it was just so weird, but I definitely didn't have the full understanding of what that could have been.
Well, my thing was best case scenario, even if I got arrested and bonded out, they would have not let me leave the state.
Right.
And our wedding was already planned, paid for, booked.
Renovated.
Chef Bob was already wrapping the watermelon rind and bacon, planning out the cakes. I mean, everything was done. And, but it worked out.
Yeah.
I'm free.
It was a miracle.
So this is probably where we need to end this episode.
Yeah.
We're ready to get married.
We've got all
It's happening.
the charges taken care of that we know of.
Case dismissed. Case dismissed.
By the DA at that.
Well, I've noted this, that before I came into a relationship with Jesus, every time I went into a courtroom, I got convicted of something.
Mm-hmm.
Every time afterwards that I went into a courtroom, it seemed like the DA was defending me. It's weird.
Which is unheard of.
No, they don't do that.
Yeah.
But,
well, every time I've been into a courtroom, things have been dismissed. So that's my only experience.
That one time.
Well, then one more time I got lots of tickets. I didn't realize my license was suspended. But
That's right. That got dismissed.
That
too.
was later. Yeah, exactly. I feel like dismissal.
That was where you got 1 ticket for an expired tag and 7 tickets for an expired attitude.
So said my dad, yeah. But I got #dismissed.
It did. They made you pay that money though.
And they did. Only a little bit.
Well, all right, guys. This has been fun.
This is.
So we're going to the chapel and we're
gonna do the thing.
gonna
baby.
get married.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Written and produced by the Team Jones Company.
Yours truly, James and Haley Jones. If you like what you've heard, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeart, or really just about anywhere you enjoy listening to podcasts.
Most of you know about the Straight Outta Prison podcast, and we want you to know we've added 2 new platforms.
The For Real Reel, where we talk about real life, things you would never see on a highlight reel.
Things that might make you blush and might make you question some things that you never thought about. Unpack the week's hot button issues, current events,
along with the weekly Jamesism and Haleyism. Now you have to tune in to find out what that means.
Tune in to find out what that means.
And Narrowing the Gap, where I'm sharing with Haley the lessons I learned in getting from where I was to where I was supposed to be.
Narrowing the Gap is a teaching companion to the Straight Outta Prison podcast, where he really digs into some of the profound lessons that he learned and had to walk out in his journey in prison and coming out of prison.
Or download the Patreon app and you can get all of our content early and ad-free. Straight Outta Prison podcast, the For Real Reel, and Narrowing the Gap.
Listen on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.
Other ways you can support us is to like and share the episodes of the podcast, leave us a rating and a review,
and support our sponsors. They help us provide this platform for free.
Thank you guys for listening to the podcast.
And again, thank you guys for being a part of our story.
We're going. You want to say something to the camera before we get started?
No. Yes.
As soon as they finish eating, you're sipping their salad. Okay?
There's your cake. There's my cake. I was wondering where my cake was. Yeah, I can see it. Will you marry me? Okay.
Getting anything out of these videos, please hit the like button, the subscribe. If you never want to miss a recipe or anything I do, hit the little bell and you'll get notifications.